I stood at the altar, my white dress a stark contrast to the storm brewing in my heart. Church was filled with whispers and sideways glances, but all I could focus on was the hushed conversation happening just a few feet away. Elliot, you can't be serious about marrying that woman. She doesn't understand our family, Margaret hissed, her perfectly coiffed hair barely moving as she leaned in close to my soon-to-be husband. I couldn't help myself. Excuse me, Margaret? What exactly do you mean by that? The silence that followed was deafening. Elliot's face paled as he looked between his mother and me, clearly caught off guard. Margaret, however, didn't miss a beat. Oh, Kyla, dear. I was just expressing some last-minute jitters to Elliot. You know how mothers can be, she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. I felt my jaw clench. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but here I was, already at odds with my mother-in-law before the vows were even exchanged. Elliot finally found his voice. Mom, please. This isn't the time or place. I watched as he gently guided Margaret back to her seat, whispering something I couldn't hear. When he returned to my side, he squeezed my hand reassuringly. Don't worry about her, he murmured. It's just nerves. But as the ceremony began, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a long and difficult journey. Priest's words faded into the background as my mind raced, remembering how Elliot and I had reconnected after college, our whirlwind romance leading us to this moment. As I said, I do, I silently vowed to myself that I wouldn't let Margaret's disapproval taint our happiness. Little did I know this was only the first battle in a war I never asked to fight. The boxes were barely unpacked when Margaret's shrill voice pierced our new home. This place is a joke. You need a proper home for a proper family. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. We're happy here, Margaret. Please respect our choice. Her eyes narrowed, scanning our modest condo with disdain. Elliot, darling, surely you can't be content in this shoebox? Elliot shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Mom, it's fine. We like it here. But his weak protest only emboldened Margaret. Over the next few weeks, her visits became more frequent and her criticisms more pointed. Every decision we made was scrutinized and found wanting. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, Margaret cornered me in the kitchen. Kyla, dear, don't you think it's time you focused on starting a family? Your biological clock is ticking, you know. I gripped the counter, willing myself to stay calm. Margaret, Elliot and I will decide when we're ready for children. She patted my arm condescendingly. Of course, dear. But you can't keep putting it off. And really, with a demanding career like yours, how do you expect to be a proper mother? Before I could respond, Elliot walked in. What's going on? Margaret turned to him, her voice syrupy sweet. Oh, I was just telling Kyla how wonderful it would be to have grandchildren soon. Don't you agree, darling? I watched, my heart sinking as Elliot nodded. Well, yeah, we have talked about it. That night, after Margaret left, I confronted Elliot. Why didn't you back me up? We agreed we weren't ready for kids yet, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. I know. It's just, you know how Mom gets. Sometimes it's easier to agree. I felt a chill run through me. Easier for whom, Elliot? Because it's certainly not easier for me. As I lay in bed that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Margaret's demands were growing, and Elliot's spine seemed to be shrinking. I loved my job, but now even that was under attack. How long before I lost myself completely in this tug-of-war? I walked into the office, the familiar hum of computers and chatter of colleagues washing over me like a soothing balm. Here, I wasn't Elliot's wife or Margaret's disappointing daughter-in-law. I was just Kyla, respected system engineer. As I settled at my desk, Robert, my boss, approached with a smile. Kyla, got a minute? In his office, he dropped a bombshell. How would you feel about an overseas assignment? It's a big step, but you're more than ready. My heart raced with excitement. I need to discuss it with Elliot, but thank you for this opportunity. Walking home that evening, my mind whirled with possibilities. This could be my chance to prove myself, to escape the suffocating grip of Margaret's expectations. But as I entered our condo, reality crashed back. Elliot and Margaret were huddled on the couch, their conversation halting abruptly at my arrival. Margaret's saccharine smile did nothing to mask the tension in the room. "Kyla, dear, we were just discussing your career choices," Margaret said, her tone dripping with disapproval. Elliot avoided my gaze. "Mom thinks, well, we both think it might be time for you to consider stepping back from work. To focus on starting our family." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "Elliot, we talked about this. We agreed we weren't ready," Margaret interjected. "But darling, you're not getting any younger. And really, what kind of mother could you be with such a demanding job?" I turned to Elliot, silently pleading for support, but he remained silent, eyes fixed on the floor. In that moment, something inside me snapped. Actually, I've just been offered an incredible opportunity. An overseas assignment. The shock on their faces was almost satisfying. Elliot finally found his voice. "Overseas? Kyla, you can't be serious. What about us? Our plans?" I met his gaze steadily. "What plans, Elliot? The ones your mother makes for us?" As the argument escalated, I realized this wasn't just about a job. It was about my identity, my future, my very self. And I knew, with a clarity that both terrified and exhilarated me, that I couldn't back down this time. The evening ended in a stalemate, with Elliot retreating to the guest room and Margaret leaving in a huff. As I lay alone in our bed, I wondered if this opportunity might be the make-or-break moment for our marriage. And surprisingly, I found I was ready to face whatever came next. The overseas assignment was everything I'd hoped for and more. Away from Margaret's suffocating presence and Elliot's wavering support, I thrived. My colleagues respected my expertise, and for the first time in years, I felt truly valued. But even as I excelled professionally, a nagging worry gnawed at me. Elliot's calls became less frequent, his voice distant when we did speak. I told myself it was just the time difference, the strain of separation. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Then came the message that shattered my fragile peace. "Kyla, there's something you need to know about Elliot." Vicky's text glared at me from my phone screen, my stomach twisting into knots. "Vicky, what are you talking about? What's going on?" I typed back, my hands shaking. Her response was maddeningly vague. "I can't say more over text. Can we video chat?" That night, sleep eluded me. My mind raced with possibilities, each scenario worse than the last. Was Elliot sick? Had something happened to his parents? Or was it something else entirely? The next day, I stumbled through my presentations, my usual confidence replaced by a gnawing anxiety. As soon as I returned to my hotel room, I called Vicky. Her face appeared on my screen, her expression a mix of pity and something else I couldn't quite place. "Kyla, I'm so sorry to be the one to tell you this, but Elliot and we've been seeing each other." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "What? No, that's not possible."
But as Vicky continued, providing details only someone intimate with Elliot would know, the truth became undeniable. My husband, the man I'd sacrificed so much for, had betrayed me with one of my oldest friends. In that moment, I felt something inside me break. But alongside the pain, a strange sense of clarity emerged. All the compromises, the battles with Margaret, the constant feeling of not being enough, it all crystallized into a single, inescapable truth. I deserved better. As I ended the call with Vicky, my phone buzzed with a message from Elliot. "Hey, can we talk? There's something important we need to discuss." I stared at his message, my finger hovering over the reply button. In that moment, I knew I faced the most crucial decision of my life. Would I confront him? Try to salvage what was left of our marriage? Or was it time to finally put myself first? With a deep breath, I made my choice. My hands trembled as I dialed Elliot's number. The pit in my stomach grew with each ring until his voice, once a source of comfort, now filled me with dread. Kyla, is it true? I cut him off, my voice barely above a whisper. A pause. Then, what did Vicky tell you? His evasion was all the confirmation I needed. How long, Elliot? How long have you been sleeping with my friend? It's not what you think, he stammered. It just happened. I was lonely and don't you dare make excuses, I hissed, rage building inside me. You betrayed me. With Vicky, of all people. As Elliot fumbled through apologies and explanations, my phone buzzed with an incoming message. It was from Margaret. Kyla, dear. I heard about your situation. Perhaps it's time to come home and work things out with Elliot. Vicky's been such a comfort to him while you've been away. The audacity of her words made my blood boil. In that moment, everything became crystal clear. The years of criticism, the constant undermining, the pressure to conform to their idea of a proper wife, it all led to this betrayal. Elliot, I interrupted his rambling. I want a divorce. What? Kyla, no. We can work this out. I'll end things with Vicky, I promise. It's too late, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. I deserve better than this. Better than you. As I ended the call, another message from Margaret popped up. Don't be hasty, dear. Family should come first. I stared at her words, a bitter laugh escaping me. Family? The very people who should have supported me had betrayed me in the worst way possible. In that moment, I made a decision. I wouldn't let them define me or my worth any longer. I had a successful career, colleagues who respected me, and a whole world of possibilities ahead. With newfound determination, I typed out a response to Margaret. You're right. Family should come first. That's why I'm choosing myself. I hit send, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in years, I felt truly free. It was time to forge my own path, away from the toxicity of Elliot, Vicky, and Margaret. As I looked out at the unfamiliar skyline of my temporary home, I realized this overseas assignment wasn't just a job opportunity. It was my chance at a new beginning. And I was ready to seize it with both hands. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. I stared at the manila envelope, my name printed in stark black letters, a stark reminder of how quickly life can change. As I reached for it, my phone buzzed. Elliot's name flashed on the screen. Kyla, let's just end this. It's not working anymore. His words, so cavalier, so dismissive of our years together, ignited a fire within me. You're right. It's over, Elliot. The line went silent for a moment before he spoke again, his voice tinged with surprise. Wait, what? Kyla, I didn't mean. No, Elliot. You don't get to backpedal now. You made your choice when you decided to sleep with Vicky. As if on cue, my phone pinged with a message from Margaret. Kyla, dear, don't be hasty. Elliot's just confused. Vicky's been such a comfort to him. I felt a surge of anger and, surprisingly, pity. They were all so entangled in their web of manipulation and denial. Elliot, I said, cutting off his stammering excuses, I've already signed the papers. They're waiting for you. But what about our life together? Our plans? I laughed bitterly. What plans, Elliot? The ones where I give up my career to be the perfect wife your mother always wanted? Or the ones where I turn a blind eye to your affair? Another message from Margaret popped up. Think of the family, Kyla. Don't throw everything away. In that moment, facing Elliot's weakness and Margaret's meddling, something inside me snapped. I was done being the accommodating wife, the dutiful daughter-in-law. You know what, Elliot? I am thinking of family. My family. The one I'm going to build for myself without you, without your mother's interference, without the constant feeling that I'm not enough. I could hear Vicky's voice in the background, demanding to know what was happening. The chaos on the other end of the line was a stark contrast to the calm determination I felt. Goodbye, Elliot, I said, my voice steady. I hope you and Vicky are very happy together. I ended the call and blocked both their numbers. Then, taking a deep breath, I opened the envelope and signed my name on the last page of the divorce papers. As I sealed the envelope to send back, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, I felt truly free. I was ready to face whatever came next on my own terms. 6 months after the divorce, I was thriving in my overseas position. The pain of Elliot's betrayal had dulled, replaced by a newfound sense of purpose and self-worth. That's when the call came. "Kyla, I made a mistake. Can we talk? I need you." Elliot's voice, once so familiar, now sounded foreign and desperate. I gripped my phone tighter, steeling myself against the wave of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. "Elliot, it's too late. I've moved on. Please, just hear me out. Vicky, she's not who I thought she was. And Mom. God, I've been such a fool." I closed my eyes, remembering all the times I'd longed to hear those words. But now they felt hollow. "What happened, Elliot?" He sighed heavily. "Vicky's been manipulating everything. She and Mom, they've been working together, trying to control every aspect of my life. I feel like I'm suffocating." A part of me wanted to laugh at the irony. How many times had I felt that way, trapped between Elliot's passivity and Margaret's overbearing nature? "I'm sorry you're going through this, Elliot, but I want you back, Kyla. I know I don't deserve it, but I love you. I always have." My heart clenched. For a moment, I allowed myself to imagine going back, trying again. But then I thought of the life I'd built for myself, the strength I'd found. "No, Elliot. You're right, you don't deserve it. And I deserve better. Kyla, please. Goodbye, Elliot. I hope you find happiness, but it won't be with me." As I ended the call, my phone buzzed with a message from Margaret. "Kyla, dear, Elliot needs you. It's time to come home and be the wife he deserves." Anger flared within me. Even now, she was trying to manipulate the situation. I typed out a response, my fingers flying over the keys. "Margaret, I am home. My home is where I'm respected, valued, and free to be myself. Something I never had with you or Elliot. Please, for everyone's sake, let go." I hit send, then blocked her number. As I stood there, my heart racing, I realized this was it, the final tie severed, the last temptation overcome. I was truly free. A knock at my office door startled me. It was Robert, my boss, with news of a promotion, a permanent position overseas, leading my own team.
As I accepted the offer, I felt a surge of excitement and pride. This was my life now, full of possibilities and free from the shadows of my past. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew I was strong enough to face them, on my own terms. 2 years after my divorce, I found myself back in my hometown for a conference. As I walked down familiar streets, memories of my life with Elliot flickered through my mind, but they no longer held any power over me. I turned a corner and froze. There, across the street, were Elliot and Margaret, locked in what appeared to be a heated argument. I ducked into a nearby cafe, not ready for a confrontation. "Kyla, is that you?" I turned to see Sarah, my old friend, beaming at me. "Sarah, it's so good to see you." As we sat down for coffee, Sarah's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Kyla, you look happier than I've ever seen you. What's your secret?" I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "I finally feel free, Sarah. I'm ready for whatever comes next." We chatted, catching up on the past 2 years. I learned that Elliot and Vicky's relationship had imploded spectacularly, with Vicky's manipulative nature finally pushing Elliot away. Margaret, in her attempts to control the situation, had only made things worse. As we talked, I saw Elliot enter the cafe. Our eyes met, and for a moment I saw a flicker of the man I once loved. He hesitated, then approached our table. "Kyla, I'm sorry. For everything." I took a deep breath, surprised by the calmness I felt. "Thank you, Elliot. I hope you're doing well." He nodded, a sad smile on his face. "I'm getting there. It took losing you to realize what I had, and what I let my mother do to us. I'm in therapy now, trying to break free from her influence." As he walked away, I felt the last remnants of my old life fall away. I turned back to Sarah, who was watching me with a mix of concern and admiration. "Are you okay?" she asked. I smiled, realizing that for the first time in years, I truly was. "More than okay. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." That night, as I prepared for my keynote speech at the conference, I reflected on my journey. The pain, the betrayal, the struggle to find myself. It had all led me here. I was no longer the woman who let others dictate her worth or her choices. As I stepped onto the stage, facing a room full of aspiring engineers, I felt a surge of pride and purpose. My story wasn't just about a failed marriage or a toxic mother-in-law. It was about finding the strength to stand up for oneself, to pursue dreams, and to define success on one's own terms. I began my speech, my voice strong and clear. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you about the power of choosing yourself. In that moment, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, I was ready to face them. I had found my voice, my purpose, and most importantly, myself.